Erased Destiny 2, The Knower. Chapter 12, Taste of War. Etien was trying to not show how angry she was, at least not before they were left alone. Zuzu didn't tell her that Noemi was hiding in Tyrdam. Maybe she even didn't know that, what made her a terrible commander. By taking Etien to the palace, Zuzu not only destroyed their chance to get to know Noemi's plans and motives, but endangered her to exposure. If any of Death Mages were to pass nearby, Etienne's peaceful life would be over.
Thank you all for your help. You did a great job. Mission accomplished. Wait for me at house. In the meantime, we will transport your belongings and the payment. Zuzu, teleport them to Sintra.
Wait a minute. Is this the Crystal Palace?
That's right. I've transported you at Etienne's request.
Could we take a look at it in the meantime? And go back to Sintra with Etien? We've never been here and probably won't be again. It's a rare opportunity, isn't it?
The boy gave him a meaningful look, and the girl immediately picked up on what he was thinking.
Could I meet my dad? Please, just to talk. For a little while. I am so worried about him. Please.
Etien furrowed her brow. She wanted to talk to Zuzu as soon as possible, but face to face. She clutched the red robe in her hands, a potential source of information about Noemi's plans. Their last hope to uncover the real purpose of Tyrdam's hideout.
Sonja will take you to the prison, and Uzumaya shall show the palace to the rest of you. Please remember that it is a military building and entrance to many of rooms is strictly forbidden.
Zuzu and Etien moved to the crystal chamber, the only place where no one should disturb them in conversation, and where the mages of the past had set up many barriers, including those protecting against eavesdropping.
Did you become mistress of life as well?
Etien pointed to the green edging on the silver robe.
I haven't found anyone suitable for the position. What happened?
We met Noemi. What else could it be? Why didn't you tell me? And why did you take me to the palace? I said, them, not us.
Noemi, I didn't know she lived in Tyrdam. Really, I know how it sounds. And I am sorry. I took you all without thinking much about it. In this chamber you are safe. No mage will find your mind. I created more barriers, protected the palace as much as I could. Rest easy. It had to be difficult for you.
Although the sparkle of the crystal tempted Etien, she focused on the conversation. She tried to control her emotions. She was afraid that if she started talking, she would say much more than she should.
Why didn't you tell me that Noemi is gathering an army to attack the palace and take it over? Why does Noemi blame me for all the misfortunes that have befallen her? And what are those misfortunes, apart from being removed from the palace? How large is her army? How long has her rebellion been going on? Who has she allied herself with? What moves has she made?
Mom, let me answer. I didn't want to involve you in the issues between me and Noemi. I know you love us both, although Noemi sees it differently. Any attack on the palace is my concern. And believe me, I can handle an open aggression. The guerrilla warfare that Noemi loves is more difficult for me. After Elstar's death, Noemi fled the palace, taking many fire and water mages and seekers with her. No one has seen her since.
Zuzu did not know the answers to the other questions. She did not know why Noemi blamed her mother, who was not among the living at the time of the uprising. She did not know how large the troops that Noemi had managed to recruit were, nor whether she had formed alliances with other worlds. Her own ignorance depressed Zuzu, exposing her shortcomings as a ruler. After all, she should know something. At least try to get the information.
Noemi manipulates the weather. I don't know what she's doing, but despite my best efforts, the climate is going crazy. We haven't seen natural rain around the palace for a long time. There have been several acts of sabotage by the Seekers remaining in the palace, so Sonja's presence is invaluable. Nothing else has caused me any concern.
Then let's talk to the informant.
Once again, the apparition of the recently killed mage appeared before Etien.
What is Noemi up to?
Noemi plans to kill Zuzu. To get back the palace she lost. To resurrect her brother Elstar and return the throne to him.
And how does she intend to achieve this?
We are raising funds for a mercenary army. People who will distract Zuzu from the real threat, the magical weapon that Noemi is creating in the dungeons of Tyrdam. We have trained hundreds of young, talented mags. And about 3 times as many seekers.
Tien nodded approvingly. Whatever could be said about Noemi, she knew how to plan. She was an expert in her field and was taught how to fight by the best swordsmen among the Seekers. She was proficient in most elements, knew how to transform herself, and had also held the position of supreme healer. Noemi invented a pyramid of mutual financing to quickly raise the necessary funds. Not only did she trade in drugs, she also robbed the inhabitants of Tyrdam of their hard-earned coins by artificially raising the prices. She subjugated the guard, the local merchant guild, and all decision-makers. And whoever did not want to listen to the usurper died in mysterious circumstances, like the previous mayor of Tyrdam.
When are you planning to attack?
Within the year. As soon as Noemi finishes preparing her weapon.
The mage disappeared, and Etien paced back and forth in the familiar chamber. A magical weapon. What could it be?
I'll send out Seekers. Let them check out what Noemi is constructing.
And go over to her side? Noemi is proficient in mind magic. And she's a seeker. We won't sneak up on her unnoticed. I'll try to talk to her. Meet her on a neutral ground. She knows I'm alive, so she might come to me.
What should we do about Tyrdam?
Etien wanted to shout. Why are you asking me about this? Am I still the lady of the Crystal Palace, or did you seize the throne? However, she refrained and gave her answer in a relatively calm voice.
Invite the Merchant Guild representatives to the palace. They seemed like reasonable people, capable of analyzing the facts. Lift the sanctions on wood and weapons. When they ask, what about the others? Show them your decree. Convince them that you have never banned anything else. Offer to help stabilize the situation in the city, end the magical devastation and street fighting. Temporarily exempt them from monthly taxes and let them rebuild the destroyed buildings. In general, show great interest in the situation in Tyrdam. Make an impression of a kind, empathetic person whom the local authorities presented as a money-hungry monster. Organize a field hospital there. Send some warriors to temporarily replace the killed guards and ensure citizens' safety.
As the women discussed the global crisis and the specter of civil war, Nathan admired the portraits of the lords that adorned the throne room. The 9th Lady of the Crystal Palace, Mistress of Death, Frostfire, and Mind. His beloved Etien, the 10th Lord, Master of Fire and Lava. Their son, Crispin, whom Nathan named Elstar. The boy who caused them more problems than all the invasions combined. The 11th Lady, Mistress of Frosty Fire and Life. The only portrait without a name. Uzuma had asked if anyone wanted to see anything, but no one answered. Cyril and Tope stood a little to the side and seemed uninterested in sightseeing. Yume went to the dungeon with Sonja, and Jargon wasn't listening at all. Minute after minute passed as he contemplated Nathan's memories, mostly the adventures of the young boy who, against all odds and despite his family's reluctance, dreamed of studying at the palace. He learned a local language, rules of conduct, how to address different people, and even went on a mission before passing his final exams. He smiled at the memory of the swimming exam, which was exceptionally supervised by the lady of the Crystal Palace. Their first meeting, their first conversation, the death mages seemed much friendlier to him than the seekers, more open-minded and not so prejudiced. And Etien herself. He no longer remembered what emotions she had aroused in him. Admiration, respect, that's for sure. He was surprised by her as well. He had imagined her differently. Fidelis had presented her differently. And they turned out to be similar, equally lonely and misunderstood. They both dreamed of changing their lives, of a new beginning in a completely different place, to be free from the expectations of the people around them.
I see you liked that chamber very much. Well, that is strange, because for me it was one of the worst. Anyway, we're going back to Tyrdam, just for a moment to get our things. Like I said, mission accomplished. Where are Yum and Sanja? It's hard to believe that anyone could like the dungeons enough to stay there for a whole hour.
The arrival of the team in the apartment silenced the screams with which the kidnapped mayor tried to draw attention to himself. Etien immediately sedated the man and then freed him from the IV. Cyril, who had packed earlier, watched the street and people hurrying somewhere through the window. The others threw their belongings into their bags. It was getting close to supper time, and everyone hoped to have this meal with their loved ones in their homes. Tien was lost in thought. Uzumayat was packing her things, and she stood motionless, leaning against the cracked wall. She was tired, so tired. Zuzu and Noemi couldn't find a common ground, so she was forced to solve their problems. Why? And would Noemi even want to talk to her? Rather not. She talked to Nathan only, and Nathan was still missing. It looked like Etien was forced to resume her search for Nathan, even though she decided to let the man live his life. Only the roar of the collapsing buildings roused Etien from her stupor. She wanted to lie down on the floor next to Uzumayat, so that the vampire could protect her if necessary, but he took her in his arms. He stood in the window in case the ceiling suddenly collapsed.
I'll look after you. Don't worry. Do what you must.
Etienne's mind raced over Tyrdam towards the mine, which until recently had been inhabited by fire mages. Before her eyes appeared a huge hole, a crevice running almost to the river. With every moment, the crack grew bigger, until it reached the riverbed and swallowed the water flowing through the city. The mighty, almost impregnable walls collapsed with a crash, and residential buildings crumbled like building blocks.
Noemi blew up the mine. She also demolished a large part of the city. The battle for the Crystal Palace left fewer corpses. Sanja, teleport the miners to Sintra. And we have to stop the river before Tyrdam turns into a huge cemetery. I will notify Zuzu.
I'll help you. Let me stay. Let me go with you.
Jargon nodded. He could leave the city by himself, and Sonja was more useful where she was. Etien stood on the windowsill and called for Artos, on whose back she and Yum sat down. She couldn't afford to lose even a little bit of her power, and flying tired her. Behind them, the vampires rushed through the rooftops. And surprisingly, Cyril tried too. Jargon grabbed him by the shirt. He held on to his father's clothes with all his might, as if he was drowning in the sea.
I know the city's topography. I'll help them find the escape tunnels. Get people out of the ruins.
A secondary shock toppled people fleeing towards the city gates, trampling each other in a mad rush. Unhinged, Cyril leaned on Jargon, who was still holding his shirt. The transparent furniture collapsed in on itself, crumbled, and finally disappeared completely. Jargon closed his eyes. Etien gathered power, every bit she had access to. And he didn't have the courage to follow her. Like in the evil mother-in-law, he was just a coward. He deserved those words.
Don't go. I'll teleport us out of Tyrdam. This is not our business.
A few streets away, a large tenement house collapsed, burying the fleeing people underneath and throwing up a cloud of dust. Topaz threw all the bags onto the roof, one by one, so that they could be retrieved later on. He woke up the dazed mayor by hitting him in the face. He placed the semi-conscious man on the roof and firmly ordered him to escape the collapsing city. He stood on the windowsill, urging the arguing men on.
In the face of disaster, every adult is obliged to help. Besides, you were right. Etien is giving so much of herself that standing by idly makes you feel guilty. And I don't want to just watch again.
Move. You can talk outside.
Cyril went out through the window onto the roof, protected by Topaz. Jargon managed on his own. They looked down at the destroyed city, which had been reduced to ruins in an instant. All it took was one spell, one explosion, to deprive hundreds of people of a roof over their heads. In the end, it wasn't the cruelty of the vampires or Etienne's calculated planning that mattered. When Tyrdam was no longer a safe haven for her, when the inhabitants of the city with deep pockets became less important, Noemi did not hesitate to condemn everyone to death. As if in this way she wanted to persuade Zuzu to give up the throne by showing her own ruthlessness.
We can't help them. It's too much for us.
If we ran along the wall surrounding the city, we'd reach the river. The bridge is still standing. I don't know about what's beyond it.
We'll see when we get there. Jargon, teleport home, now.
They jumped to the neighboring roof and slid down the broken cornice to the still intact balcony. They disappeared into the crowd of people heading towards the city walls. Topaz thought of Lena. Would she be able to cope if something happened to him? About the children who would grow up without a father. He wondered if Etien could resurrect. He thought she probably could. Slightly heartened by this thought, he broke down the door to the guardhouse through which they intended to get to the walls. Cyril thought about nothing. He felt old, too old for such adventures. But in the same time, he didn't want any parent to have to bury their children. So if he could save any of them, even if it meant his own death, he was willing to do so. Jargon put his hands in his pockets. He couldn't calm down. He couldn't decide on what to do. His fear kept Nathan blocked, and Nathan decided to not fight. He waited for their end and thought about Etien only. Would she be happy to see him when they finally meet in the land of the dead?
If only I had trained the magic. Or at least my body, I would know what to do.
What are you so afraid of? Death? You fall into darkness and then you see yourself. Your life. That's all. You know that Etien can heal, resurrect, transform. Save lives in every known way. Besides, nobody is asking anything of you. Close your eyes, relax, and I'll do the rest.
Why aren't you afraid?
Because I was told that my life was worth little. I was the inferior child, pushed and chased to work. Because if something happened to me, all anyone was interested in was the cost of my treatment.
Nathan's story, instead of comforting Jargon, made his legs buckle. Sitting on the roof, he looked at the place where they had explored the mine. Somewhere out there, Etien was fighting the elements. Somewhere out there, vampires were rescuing injured people from under the rubble. The boy squeezed his eyelids shut with all his might. Noemi and Etien were using earth and water spells to stop the calamity. Vampires were penetrating through the cracks between the broken stones in the form of smoke to get to the injured people. They used unlimited teleportation to get them outside. What could Jargon, who was gifted with ice, do? To calm down, he started counting his breaths, and Nathan continued his bitter speech.
Do you know how I earned my keep at the palace? The adepts would practice their spells on me. Too bad they weren't healing ones. But of course it's your life that's hard. Because they're trying to set you up with a boring girl.
I didn't know.
Did you ask? Anyway, what do you care about my life? What do you care about Etien's life? You envy her so much and you know nothing about her. How old do you think she was when she was killed for the first time? Guess. You don't want to? 8. They poisoned her so she wouldn't take the throne. Her parents were murdered. She was condemned to wander the world under a false name and a false life story.
Jargon remained silent. He could not find an answer to the questions that Nathan asked. He admired Etien. Sometimes he envied her, but he subconsciously felt that it was the hard experiences that had made the girl so tough. They forced her to learn many skills, make quick decisions, and calculate potential profits. In fact, Jargon began to long for his uncomplicated existence, for the lack of stress and terrifying challenges. If his life at Etienne's side was to consist of running from one disaster to another, of constantly exposing himself to an unpleasant death, of improving his skills under pressure of time, he preferred to withdraw, to go back home, to give up the impossible intention of marrying a crazy girl. He looked towards the mine, and then towards the city walls. He slowly got up.
Do you really want to abandon them like that? To leave your father to death?
Everyone makes decisions that suit them.
Jargon froze the ice slide leading away from the place where most of the houses had collapsed.
I regret 100 times over that I found myself in your body. And that I have saved your life when you were attacked by the sea unicorn. To think that I could be with Etien already.
Nathan blocked Jargon's legs. That he could do, stay in the collapsing city till the very end. He regretted he couldn't do more than to watch the catastrophe, that he couldn't die with Etien holding his hand. But he was close to her. He could almost feel her presence. That was good enough for him. Terrified at the vision of his own end, Jargon gave Nathan free rein.
Look, we have come to an agreement again.
He froze the footbridge connecting the nearby houses and ran as fast as he could towards the epicenter of the earthquake.
You said that you led the Seekers. How did you manage to achieve that if?
When our paths crossed, Etien reached out to me. I wanted to protect her. As a Seeker. Then as a man. We slept together and I still knew nothing about her. There it is again. She flew to save the subjects instead of calling the army. The lack of respect for my work bothered me the most.